The morning my sister was set to be deported, I stood in a federal courtroom as the only person in our family who still believed she'd been telling the truth for 6 years. She'd been convicted of running a fraud scheme through the small accounting office where she worked. Nearly $2 million moved out of client trust accounts over 3 years. The case looked airtight. Her login credentials on every transfer. Her signature, verified by 2 examiners, on the authorization forms. Money that had passed through an account opened in her name in a state she'd never lived in. She got 8 years. She served 6. And because she'd come here at 4 years old on a status that never got sorted out, a felony conviction meant that the day she finished her sentence, they'd put her on a plane to a country she had no memory of, where she knew no one and barely spoke the language. She said she was innocent every single day. Not loudly, not dramatically, just quietly and consistently. The way people do when it's simply true and they've run out of ways to make anyone hear it. There were holes. Her credentials were used for transfers on days she was demonstrably out of the office, once from a terminal in a building she'd never been inside. The handwriting examiners had disagreed at first, and one later admitted under questioning that the samples he'd been given were poor. But her supervisor, a man named Whitlock, testified for 2 days about how he'd trusted her like family and how devastated he'd been to discover the theft. He wept on the stand. The jury believed him. I believed her, and it cost me everything else. I spent my savings, then my retirement, on private investigators and appellate lawyers, who all eventually said the same thing. The record is closed. There's nothing new. I'm sorry. Our parents stopped visiting after the 2nd year. My mother told me I was humiliating the family and that I needed to accept what my sister had done. My older brother blocked my number. At holidays, I was the one with the empty chair beside me. That morning at the immigration hearing, I was the only one there for her, until I turned around and saw them, my parents, my brother, sitting 3 rows back on the other side, not to support her, but to watch it end. My mother wouldn't look at me. What I noticed, though, was who wasn't there. Whitlock had attended every single proceeding for 6 years. Front row every time, that same grave expression. He wasn't in the room. They brought my sister in at 9:15, in the beige uniform, wrists cuffed in front of her. She'd gotten so thin. She found me immediately, and she smiled, actually smiled, and mouthed thank you. I smiled back and dug my nails into my palms so I wouldn't fall apart, because I was the big sister and she'd never once seen me break. The judge began reading the removal order. I heard the words, effective immediately, and felt the floor drop out. 6 years of fighting, and I'd lost. My sister closed her eyes. Then, at 9:34, the clerk's phone rang. She answered, said almost nothing, and walked a slip of paper up to the bench. The judge read it, and I watched the color leave his face. He stopped mid-sentence. Counsel, approach. We're in recess. It took another 40 minutes before anyone told us anything, and when they did, I had to sit down on the floor of that hallway. Whitlock had walked into an FBI field office at 7 a.m. that morning and confessed to all of it. He had pancreatic cancer. Months, maybe less. He said he couldn't die with it. The confession was 40 pages. He'd built the scheme himself over years, using credentials he'd assigned her, forging authorizations he'd taught her to sign, opening the out-of-state account with documents he had access to as her supervisor. He picked her deliberately. Young, quiet, immigration status precarious, no money for a real defense, the kind of person a jury would find easy to convict and no one would fight very hard for. He said he'd sat in that courtroom every day because he needed to see whether she'd break and take a plea, and she never did. The removal was stayed that afternoon. Her conviction was vacated 11 weeks later. My parents tried to apologize to her in that hallway. My mother reached for her hand, crying, saying she'd only believed what she was told. My sister didn't say one word to any of them. She looked at them for a long moment, and then she turned to me, and she took my arm, and we walked out of that building together into the parking lot. She's been free 2 years now. She doesn't speak to our family. She calls me every Sunday.